I am writing these lines while my hands are still trembling, even though I have downed 2 glasses of strong liquor. If you are reading this, please, never buy cheap real estate in rural Pennsylvania, especially places with a history. I bought this dilapidated Blackwood station exactly 3 weeks ago. It was a bargain to the point of suspicion. A train station built of red brick in 1920 seconds architecture, sitting isolated amidst a dense pine forest about 6 miles from Route 9. At $45,000, I thought I had hit the jackpot. My plan was simple: spend 6 months renovating it into a unique industrial-style home, then sell it for 3 times the price. I am a freelance contractor. I am not afraid of dust, mold, or broken water pipes, but there are things not found in the technical drawings. The first week passed in a strangely peaceful manner. During the day, I was busy sanding oak floors and replastering peeling walls in the main waiting room. The air here was thick, smelling of old paper, rotting wood, and something sour like oxidized copper. I slept in the station master's old office, a small room located right next to where the tracks used to be. I need to emphasize this for you to understand. There are no tracks left. This railway line has been discontinued since 1985. The wooden sleepers and steel rails were dismantled and sold as scrap metal decades ago. Outside, my bedroom window is just a strip of gray gravel soil, overgrown with knee-high weeds, running deep into the darkness of the pine forest. The incident began on the 3rd night. I am a very deep sleeper. You could fire a gun next to my ear and I would probably just stir. But that night, I woke up completely alert, my heart pounding in my chest. The digital alarm clock on the nightstand flashed red numbers, 3:33 a.m. At first, I thought it was the silence. The silence here is not like in the city. It was heavy. It pressed against your eardrums. But then, I realized it wasn't the silence that woke me. It was a vibration. The glass of water I left on the desk was shaking violently, creating small circular ripples on the water surface. The old glass window and the oak frame began to rattle softly. The sensation was exactly like standing next to a subway track when a train is approaching. A compression of air pressure, an immense weight moving. I sat motionless on the mattress on the floor, holding my breath. The floor beneath my feet vibrated gently, steadily. Thump, thump, thump. A rhythm. Not an earthquake. Earthquakes don't have rhythm. This is the echo of heavy machinery. I rushed out of bed and ran to the window, pulling up the dusty curtain. Outside, the pale moonlight shone down on the empty gravel strip. Nothing at all. Only weeds swaying in the wind. But even as my eyes saw the emptiness, my body felt the opposite. My teeth chattered due to the vibration transmitting through the house foundation. And then, from far away in the quiet night, I heard it. Not the wind whistling through the cracks. It was the sound of a steam train whistle. A long, mournful scream, sharp as a razor, echoing from where nothing should exist. That whistle lasted about 5 seconds, then died out, leaving me rooted in the darkness. Cold sweat pouring down, soaking my shirt. The vibration also stopped abruptly, just as it began. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the floor, back leaning against the wall, hand clutching the box cutter I used to cut the carpet. I told myself it could be an auditory hallucination due to fatigue. When you work 14 hours a day inhaling drywall, dust, and varnish, the brain can play tricks on you. Or maybe a high-pressure gas pipe leaking underground? But when the morning sunlight pierced through the window, my denial began to crack. As soon as I stepped out of the bedroom, a strong foul odor hit my nose directly. That wasn't the musty smell of the old house anymore. It was the smell of sulfur and burning coal. It was so strong I could feel the bitter taste of metal in my throat, like when you bite into a piece of aluminum foil. I opened the front door, stepped out onto the porch, and was stunned. The whole wooden porch I just swept clean yesterday afternoon was now covered in a layer of fine black powder, at least half an inch thick. I swiped my finger across the wooden floor. Soot. It was warm. Not the warmth of the sun, but a smoldering warmth, like it was just discharged from a giant incinerator. I looked out at the gravel strip where the tracks used to be. The weeds there were no longer green. A streak about 3 meters long parallel to the porch had withered, turned a gray-brown as if boiled by hot steam. "What the hell is this?" I muttered, wiping the soot on my hands onto my jeans. I tried to find a rational explanation. There is a paper mill about 20 miles to the east. Maybe the wind changed direction last night? Maybe they illegally discharged waste at night? I clung to that thought all that day. I even drove into town to buy more air filter masks, convincing myself that this was just an environmental pollution issue. But deep down, I knew the wind last night was dead calm, and soot couldn't fall in a perfect straight line along the old tracks like that. That night, I was ready. I placed an old dash cam on the windowsill, pointing straight at the tracks. I drank 3 cups of black coffee and waited. 2 a.m. Quiet. Only the sound of crickets chirping. 3 a.m. The crickets suddenly stopped, as if someone just flipped the audio switch of the entire forest. And then, exactly 3:33 a.m., the vibration returned, this time more violent. The old photos I hung on the wall began to tilt. The wooden floor beneath my feet groaned and creaked. But this time, the air in the room changed. The temperature skyrocketed. The cool room suddenly became scorching hot like an oven. I looked out the window. My camera was completely obscured. Not darkness, but steam. A thick, milky white mist was swirling outside the glass, rising billowingly from the dry gravel. In that chaotic steam, I heard the ear-piercing hiss of a pressure release valve, and the sound of metal clashing against heavy metal. Clang, slow but full of power. That was the sound of an iron monster coming to a halt. I held my breath, pressing my face close to the scorching hot window glass. The wind blew the steam aside in an instant, and I saw it. Not an intact train. It was vague, pitch black, colossal like a moving building. An antique steam locomotive, with steel wheels taller than a person, turning the final slow revolutions. Its front headlight was not lit, but the coal furnace inside glowed a ghostly orange-red, casting dancing shadows on the gravel ground, and on the cracked concrete platform that I plan to demolish next week. Someone was standing. I counted 12 people. They stood scattered on the cracked concrete platform, less than 5 meters from my window. What made my stomach churn was not that they were transparent or floating, because they weren't. They looked solid and real, to the point of being terrifying. If I didn't know exactly where I was, I would think it was a film crew shooting a period piece in the middle of the night. But there was something very wrong with the way they stood. Completely motionless. No one moved, not even a blink, despite the hot steam swirling around their feet. The orange-red light from the engine's furnace cast upon their pale, emotionless faces. They were dressed in a style I had only seen in black and white photos of my grandparents. The men wore knee-length ash-gray trench coats, heads topped with fedoras obscuring half their faces. The women wore 1952nd-style cinched waist dresses, carrying hard leather suitcases. I fixed my eyes on the woman standing closest to me. She was wearing a beige coat, but the only highlight in that gray picture was the crimson beret she was wearing. It was bright red, fresh as blood, in complete contrast to her ashen corpse-like skin. And then, the sound rang out, cutting through the hissing of the steam. Click. As if controlled by a giant clockwork mechanism, all 12 of them moved simultaneously. Their left arms raised, wrists rotated slightly. 12 heads bowed down. They were checking their watches. That synchronization did not belong to humans. It was mechanical, forced, and precise to the millimeter. I felt my scalp go numb. The woman in the red hat looked up after checking her watch. Under the brim of the hat, I saw her eyes. They were wide open, staring, the white seeming to occupy the entire sockets. Her mouth opened, twisted in a silent scream. I saw her neck muscles tense up, chest heaving violently as if screaming with all her might, but no sound came out. Only the sound of the train engine still rumbling. Suddenly, the train whistle blew again, this time so piercing that a long crack appeared on my window glass. Dude! The group took a step simultaneously towards the edge of the platform, towards the empty tracks. The woman in the red hat turned her head back. Her gaze was no longer looking into the void. She was looking straight at me. In that split second, I saw utter despair. And then, a thick black smoke burst from the locomotive chimney, engulfing everything. The room went dark. When the smoke cleared after a few seconds, the station platform was empty again. No train, no people, only the cold moonlight shining on the withered weeds. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air as if I had just escaped drowning. My t-shirt was soaked with cold sweat. The next morning, I didn't work. I couldn't stay in that house for another second without knowing what I was facing. I drove my pickup truck straight to the county public library, where old newspaper microfilms from the last century are stored. I needed to find a timeline. Their clothing. It was the early 1950 seconds. After 3 hours of hand-cranking worn-out film rolls, my eyes stopped at a large headline on the front page of the Blackwood Gazette, dated the 14th of November, 1952. Tragedy at Blackwood Station. Midnight Express derails. 47 killed. I devoured the news report, hands trembling. The accident occurred due to a track switching error at 3:33 a.m. And then, I saw it. A faint black and white photo of the accident scene, with covered bodies lying along the tracks. In the corner of the photo, portraits of some identified victims were inserted. In the second row, third from the left, a young woman with a radiant smile. The caption read, "Evelyn Miller, 24, found with her favorite red beret. I should have left right then." Any sane person would have left the deposit and run away. But humans have a bad habit, deadly curiosity mixed with greed. I poured all my savings into this damn station. I thought that if I knew the history, I could, I don't know, perform some worship or ritual to solve the problem? A stupid thought. That night, I returned to the station. Not to sleep, but to pack up the most valuable belongings. I planned to sleep in the pickup truck parked way out on the highway. I was hurriedly stuffing clothes into a canvas bag when the power cut out. Darkness descended, thick as tar. I fumbled for my phone to turn on the flashlight, but the screen was black. Out of battery? Impossible, I just fully charged it this afternoon. Then, a glowing red light cast in from the window. I looked at the luminous watch on my wrist. 3:33 a.m. It is never late, not even by a second. This time, there was no warning whistle, no noisy steam hissing, only the sound of metal grinding against each other, creaking, heavy, as if the train was crushing invisible gravel underneath. I tiptoed to the window, my heart pounding in my chest. The scene outside made the blood in my body freeze. The train was still there, looming as a pitch-black iron mass blocking the view. But the passengers, they were no longer looking at their watches. They were not reenacting the scene of waiting for the train like the night before. 12 of them. 12 ghosts from 1952. They had turned their backs to the tracks. They were looking straight at my house. They stood in a horizontal line, silent, pale faces illuminated by the coal furnace fire, all staring up at my bedroom window. Their eyes were no longer soulless. It contained anger and hunger. And then, the woman in the red hat, Evelyn, stepped out of the line. She didn't walk. She moved jerkily, step by step. The sound of high heels tapping on the gravel sounded clack, 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 clearly, even though it was soft ground outside. She walked across the withered grass, heading straight for my porch. I wanted to back away, but my feet felt nailed to the floor. Evelyn stepped onto the porch steps. I heard the porch wood creaking under her weight. She walked right up to my room window, close enough for me to see the tears in her beige coat, and black streaks, like engine oil, clinging to her cheek. She slowly pressed her face against the window glass. The cold from her body fogged up a patch of the glass. Her wide-open eyes bored into mine, separated only by a thin layer of glass. I saw her lips moving. Slowly, clearly. Save us. And then she slammed her forehead against the glass. Thud. A small spiderweb crack appeared right where her forehead touched. She pulled back a little, then slammed harder. Thud! The crack widened. It wasn't that she wanted me to save her. That mad look said something else. She wanted in. They all wanted in. Crack. The crack on the window split wider. The sound of brittle glass breaking rang out like a gunshot in the silent night. I backed away, tripped over a pile of clothes scattered on the floor, and fell backward. I fumbled for the box cutter, my hand shaking so much I almost dropped it, but Evelyn didn't bang anymore. Her hand pressed against the glass slowly slid down, leaving a greasy smear. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring blankly into the empty space behind her back. The eyes opened so wide, they looked like the eyelids were about to tear from horror. She and the other 11 passengers began to back away. Not the kind of backing away of ghosts fading, but the backing away of animals terrified of an alpha predator. They moved aside to both sides, heads bowed, trembling. Then I heard a noise from the main living room, where the station waiting hall used to be. The heavy oak door I had locked with 3 bolts, reinforced with a crossbar and blocked by a shoe cabinet, just opened. Creak! The dry oil hinges screeched a long, ear-piercing sound. Then came the sound of footsteps. Not Evelyn's high heels. This was the sound of heavy boots, with iron hobnails on the soles. Clomp, clomp, clomp. Each footstep pounding on the wooden floor made the bottles on the kitchen shelf shake violently. The foul stench flared up more violently than ever. The smell of acrid burning coal mixed with rotting flesh. The temperature in the bedroom dropped rapidly. My breath turned into white smoke right in front of my face. He was inside the house. I couldn't go out the front door. The window was blocked by that ghostly crowd of passengers. The only escape was to hide in the old ticket booth, a glass cage structure, and wood located right between the hall and the corridor leading to the bedroom. I crawled on the floor, trying not to make any sound, dragging myself quickly towards the ticket booth. I slipped into that cramped space, curling up under the rotting wooden counter, hand clamping mouth to stop gasping. Through the gap in the wooden bars of the ticket counter, I looked out into the dark hallway. He appeared. The conductor. He was so tall he had to bow his head to avoid hitting the doorframe. His dark blue uniform was tattered, badly scorched, revealing patches of skin underneath that were not human flesh, but like wet coal, shiny black and slimy. In his hand, he held a shiny silver ticket puncher. In complete contrast to his filth, he stopped in the middle of the hallway. The head wearing the low cap slowly turned back and forth. His neck joints cracked like dry branches breaking. "Tickets, please." His voice rang out, booming and rasping like gravel grinding in a concrete mixer. He raised the ticket puncher, punched the air. Click! Immediately, from the void, a blood-curdling scream rang out and then was cut off. He just punched a ticket for some invisible passenger. Then he turned his head towards the ticket booth, towards me. He had no eyes. Under the cap brim were just two deep black hollow sockets, oozing a thick black liquid. He walked slowly toward the ticket counter, hobnailed boots tapping a rhythm of death on the floor. Clomp, clomp. He stopped right in front of me, only a thin layer of wood away. I could smell the strong stench rising from his scorched trouser legs. A huge, blackened hand with unusually long fingers was placed on the counter. He leaned down, put his dark eye socket to the gap in the ticket counter, and whispered, "Destination?" I bit my lip until it bled to stop myself from screaming. Physiological tears streamed down my cheeks from fear, but I didn't dare raise my hand to wipe them. He didn't wait for an answer. Perhaps he already knew the answer. That filthy, slimy hand slowly withdrew, reaching into the tattered breast pocket. When pulled out, the long fingers held a yellowed rectangular piece of paper. He slid it through the gap under the glass shield, pushing it towards me. The ticket stopped right next to the toe of my shoe. Although reason screamed not to look, I still glanced down. It was an old-style train ticket, cardboard type, with frayed edges. The black ink was bold, unusually sharp compared to the age of the paper. Passenger my full name date, the 25th of October 2023. Tonight, destination, 47, number 47. The death toll of the 1,952 accident. He wanted me to be the 48th person to fill the train car. All aboard. He hissed, the sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. Then his hand grasped the doorknob of the ticket booth. Snap. The brass door latch I thought was solid snapped in two like a dry twig under his grip force. The flimsy wooden door began to open. I had no time to think. Survival instinct surged, crushing the paralyzing fear. I grabbed the heavy metal stool I was sitting on, spun around, and with all my might threw it at the glass window behind me. The window facing the backyard. Crash! The glass shattered. The noise was so loud it drowned out the train engine outside. I didn't look back at the monster. I threw myself through the window frame, jagged with sharp glass shards. A shard of glass cut deep into my bicep, burning, but I felt no pain. I tumbled onto the dew-soaked grass in the backyard, rolled a few times, then scrambled to my feet. The train whistle blew again. 2! This time it sounded like an angry roar. I ran. I ran for my life through the knee-high weeds, heading towards the trail leading to where I parked the pickup truck. I heard a huge crash from the station. He had destroyed the ticket booth. Behind me, the orange-red light from the coal furnace flared up violently, casting long, twisted shadows of trees onto the ground in front of me. There were footsteps chasing. Thump, thump, thump. No longer the sound of hobnailed boots, but the sound of dozens of bare feet pounding on the soft ground. The passengers. They were chasing me. I rushed to the pickup truck, hands trembling, pulling keys from my pocket. I dropped it on the ground. Damn it, I screamed, groping in the darkness. The footsteps were getting closer. The smell of burning coal and rotting flesh was right behind my neck. My fingers touched the cold metal of the key. I grabbed it, opened the car door, jumped inside, and locked it immediately. A hand slammed hard against the driver's side window. That was Evelyn. Her face pressed against the car window, distorted to the point of being unrecognizable as human. The red beret was gone, revealing a patch of scalp torn away, exposing the stark white skull underneath. She no longer looked like she was asking for help like before. Her mouth gaped open to her ears, revealing black teeth, screaming frantically in my face through the glass. Screech. Screech. Her fingernails scratched the car window, creating an ear-piercing sound like chalk on a blackboard, leaving long, greasy, ash-gray streaks. I jammed the key into the ignition, twisted hard. The pickup truck engine roared, the sweetest sound I had ever heard. I didn't bother buckling up, yanked the gear shift to reverse, and floored the gas pedal. The car lurched backward, flinging Evelyn off the car door. In the headlights sweeping through the chaotic night, I saw him, the conductor. He was standing towering right in the middle of the trail exit, blocking my escape route. He stood still like a charred telephone pole, hand still holding the ticket, puncher raised high. I didn't slow down. Fear had transformed into the frenzied rage of survival instinct. "Move or I'll run you over!" I screamed, hands gripping the steering wheel tight. I drove straight at him, but right before the car nose touched him, he dissolved. Not dissolving into air, but he shattered into thousands of black moths, hitting my windshield sounding thud, thud, thud like hail. I drove like a madman onto Route 9, not daring to look in the rearview mirror, afraid that I would see train lights chasing behind. I only stopped when I reached the parking lot of a 24/7 gas station 30 miles away, where there were bright fluorescent lights and security cameras. I sat in the car, shivering until the sun rose. When daylight returned, the stupid courage of humans also returned. I needed to go back. I needed my wallet, ID, and most importantly, I needed to confirm if last night was real or if I had gone mad from carbon monoxide poisoning. 9 a.m. I parked in front of Blackwood Station. Under the brilliant sun, the house looked peaceful, even poetic with its ancient red brick walls. Birds chirped on the pine tops. No sign of any ghost train. Weeds growing on the track bed were still green, though some patches were crushed. I walked into the house, heart still pounding. The ticket booth door was smashed. That was real. The rear window was shattered, glass shards scattered on the grass. That was real. The dried blood stain on my bicep from the glass cut. That was real. But what made my spine chill the most was not those damages. I stepped into the bedroom, where it all started. On the nightstand, lying neatly next to the alarm clock, flashing 9:15 a.m., was the ticket. The yellowed ticket, frayed edges. Destination, terminal, passenger, my name. And next to the ticket was the for sale sign I planted in the front yard last week to test the market. It had been torn into tiny shreds, arranged into the shape of an arrow pointing straight at the ticket. The message was very clear. You cannot sell, and you cannot leave. I am writing these final lines from a shabby motel room 3 states away from Blackwood. I have been running for 7 days. I thought geographical distance would save me. I was wrong. I couldn't sell that house. Not because no one would buy it, but because I couldn't sell something that no longer belonged to me. When I opened the safe to get the property deeds before fleeing, the safe was empty. The title deed had disappeared. In its place was a pile of pitch black ash, still warm, emitting a strong smell of sulfur. I tried to burn the train ticket 3 times. The first time using a lighter, it didn't burn. The second time throwing it into the fireplace, it flew back out. The third time, I tore it to shreds and threw it in the toilet and flushed. The next morning, I woke up in a motel 200 miles away, and the ticket was lying neatly on the pillow, next to my head. It was still bone dry, and the word seat 47 seemed darker than before. And last night, the motel's digital clock switched to 3:33 a.m. The room's landline, that dusty old type no one uses anymore, suddenly rang. Ring. Ring. The ring echoed in the cramped room, shrill and urgent. I sat on the bed, staring at it. I knew I shouldn't answer, but my hand reached out automatically, as if controlled by an invisible string. I picked up the receiver, pressed it to my ear. No human voice, no breathing, only the chug-chug, chug-chug, the steady sound of train wheels rolling on tracks. That sound grew louder, closer, as if the train was rushing from the other end of the line. And then, the train whistle blew. Tud! It was so loud my eardrums ached, and the motel room window vibrated violently. Before I could hang up, a hoarse, familiar voice whispered through the receiver, distinct, as if standing right behind me. Train. Arriving. At. Station. I yanked the phone cord out of the wall, but the chugging sound didn't stop. It wasn't coming from the phone anymore. It was coming from under the floorboards. I don't know how much time I have left. I can feel the ground beneath my feet vibrating slightly. The smell of burning coal has started to seep through the motel room door gap. If you pass a forest road in Pennsylvania and see a gravel trail leading into darkness, don't go in there. If you see an abandoned red brick station, don't stop. And if you hear a train whistle at 3:33 a.m., don't look out the window. Because once you see it, it will also see you. I have to go. There's a knock at the door, and the sound of hobnailed boots walking down the hallway.